Hello, this is Justin at the Tech Train here, and in this tutorial I'm going to demonstrate something which I have found useful myself when I'm doing presentations, perhaps in class with students, that are quite long presentations and they split several lessons, several different classes, and you need to somehow remember where you got up to last time. So it could be that you're in lesson 1 and you get up to slide 9, and then when you come back to the presentation the next lesson, it obviously starts going from slide 1 and you have to quickly go through and try and find the slide that you got up to last time. So you're fast forwarding and then rewinding and going back over stuff that you did last time to find the slide that you got up to last time. So if that is in any way at all similar to something that you experience, then this is a solution to that. So in this presentation here, for example, let's go through to a slide. Well, let's go through to slide 9, let's say. So we got up to slide 9, and I'm going to exit the presentation. And in fact, I can close this presentation. No need to save it. Nothing needed to be done at all. So now I have exited the presentation. I close it, perhaps. I open it next week. I press F5 to launch the PowerPoint presentation, and what I need to do is hit this resume button at the bottom right corner here, and if I click that resume button, it straight away takes me to whatever slide I was up to last time. If I now continue, let's go through the presentation again a little bit further. I think there's about 30 slides in this presentation, so there we are. So we've got to slide 24. So again, I'm going to exit out of that. Again, we could close it. No need to save anything. I just simply close it, reopen it next time. And when I hit F5, and now I come down to this resume button at the bottom, click that, and there we are, bang, we're straight back on to slide 24. So this is a very, very simple little bit of code. Don't let that put you off if you've never done code before in PowerPoint. It is incredibly simple. It's about 2 lines of code, and it will make a big difference, I think, if you do have long presentations that you have to keep coming back to and you need to remember where you got up to. So let's have a look at how to code this. So I said that it was not very much code at all, a couple of lines of code. Well, it's a little bit more than 2, but it's not much. In fact, this is it. This is all the code that you need, and I will put this code in the description below so you can simply copy and paste it. But of course, you'll need to know how to set it up in the presentation. You'll need to know where to put this code. So let's look at how we do that. So to begin with, if we go back to the presentation here, just bring that back for a second, minimize that. So what you'll need to do to add the button and the code is to have the developer toolbar at the top. These are the different toolbars: home, insert, design, transitions, and so on. And you should have developer. Now, if you don't have developer toolbar, then you can get it very, very easily. All you need to do is find a blank area on the ribbon at the top here, right click on it and choose Customize the ribbon. This will give you a list on the right of all the different tabs that you can have in PowerPoint, and you'll find developer listed there. If it doesn't have a tick next to it, then it was not visible. So simply tick that box, click OK, and you will now have the developer toolbar. There it is. So what we need to do now is to add a button, first of all, like this one here, and we also need to be able to add some code. So how do we do that? Well, the button that we can add is right here in the controls. So in this little section here in controls within the developer toolbar, there's a 4th button in, looks like a button. We can click on that, and then I can draw a button anywhere on my screen. And if I want to rename the button, or rather change the text on it, all I have to do is either right click on it and choose Property Sheet. There it is. That's appeared on my other monitor. I'll just drag that across. So here is the Property Sheet. The other way of doing it is if you click on the button, you can click Properties right here at the top. Same thing. With the Property Sheet open, we've got a list of different things that we can change. You can change things like the font and the font color and the back color, things like that. But if you find Caption, that's that one just here, that will say Command Button 2. Just be careful because the name also has Command Button 2. Don't bother changing that. Leave that as it is. But the caption's fine. That's just the text that's on the button. So here you can type anything you like, and you'll see that appears in the button there. And we can just resize that button whatever you like. Now you can change the font. The font's just there. And if we just click on the little ellipsis button, the dot 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 on the right hand side here, that will bring up the fonts, and you can choose the size so that you can customize the way that button looks however you like. Now once you've got this button, we can double click it and it will open up your Visual Basic window, and you'll see as I've just done that, it's opened the code and put in these two lines of code here. Private sub Command Button 2, you might remember that was the name of the button that I just added. So private sub Command 2 click, and then end sub. Sub is simply short for subroutine and means a block of code to do a single thing. In this case, a block of code to do something when we click Command Button 2. That's it. Now I don't actually want Command Button 2, so I'm just going to get rid of that for the moment and go back and get rid of my button because I already have a resume button here. Of course you can call the resume button whatever you like, but just for simplicity I'll keep it as that. So we need two things there. We need the button and we need two pieces of code. If I double click this button, you'll see I go into the subroutine here for Command Button 1 click. So Command Button 1 does this. These two lines of code. And again, I'll put these in the description below. But what are they doing? Well, it's got a variable here, and that variable is actually created down here. I'll show you that later. But it's got a variable called CurrentSlide. That's just simply like a little label on a box that contains a bit of information, and that information is the number of the slide that we're currently on. So CurrentSlide is whatever active presentation is, so this PowerPoint presentation, slide number 1, notes page, shapes, placeholder, text frame, text range. Whoa, that is a lot there. What does that mean? That whole thing there, thank you so much Microsoft for putting NotesPage.Shapes.Placeholders.TextFrame.TextRange, basically means the notes section at the bottom of slide 1. Why they couldn't have had NotesPage.TextRange, I don't know. But it simply says whatever active presentation is, look at slide number 1 and look at the notes section. For those of you who aren't familiar, the notes section is this bit at the bottom. Normally you'll see it just says click to add notes, and it may even be fairly hidden right down at the bottom here, click to add notes. A lot of people don't bother doing this, but this is quite handy if you're giving presentations and aren't entirely sure what you're going to say, or you have a lot of statistics that you want to quote. You can put those in the notes section at the bottom. You could even put links to websites there as well, and then you can print your PowerPoint off with the notes visible for you as a presenter, but not visible to the audience. But this notes section on slide 1 you'll see contains the number 24. And if I go through my presentation, and I'm just going to go through here to some other slide number, there we are, slide 7, and I come out of my presentation and I go back to slide 1, you'll see this notes section has updated itself to show the number of the slide I got to just now. So what this is doing is saying put the number that's in that notes section on slide 1, put that into the variable called CurrentSlide. That's what this whole line is doing. And then on this second line of code here, it's saying, okay, with this presentation and the slideshow that you're showing, simply go to whatever slide number is stored in the variable CurrentSlide. So in this case, I've got a number 7 in this notes view page here, and so the number 7 will be stored in the variable CurrentSlide, and this line of code will simply say in the slideshow, go to the slide, in this case number 7. I can change this to anything I like. If I just let's have a look, let's pick number 29. So let's say that it's going to be slide 29. So if I change this number manually in here to a 29, like that, and I run my presentation and I click resume, it's going to jump to slide 29. So that button is simply looking in the notes section of slide 1, putting that number in the variable CurrentSlide, and then going to that slide. That's what that button does. Now, how does the number of the slide we're on get stored in this notes section down here? How does that happen? Well, that's the second bit of code. That's this bit down here. So once you've got this block of code at the top here, and you'll see that that is stored on the left inside slide 1. So on the left hand side in our VBA project, you'll see a slide 1. That code there at the top will all be part of the code for slide 1. But this code here needs to be stored separately. That needs to be put so that it's available for every single slide in your entire presentation. So what we need to do on the left hand side here, where you'll just have, you won't have that module section there yet, you'll just have Microsoft PowerPoint objects and then slide 1. What you want to do is at the top where it says VBA project, just right click and go down to insert, and it's module that you're looking to add. So we insert a module, and a module is just simply if you like a blank page where we can put some code that will be available to the whole presentation, not just slide 1. So you'll then have this section down here. So you've got your slide 1 at the top. Underneath you'll have module 1, and that will, to begin with, just simply be a blank bit of code, so a blank sheet rather. There'll be nothing on there at all. And you need to add 2 things to this. So in fact, if I just add a new module so that you can see exactly what it will look like, there we are. So that is what your module will look like, just simply a blank area. And what you will see at the top right here is a section called Declarations. Now, Declarations is where we create the variables that we need to use in our presentation. And we only have that one variable, this one called CurrentSlide, which stores the slide number. So what we need to do is write this line of code right at the top in your declaration section, just right here in the middle of this code window. So dim CurrentSlide, and we've called that as integer. It's probably not, strictly speaking, necessary to put as integer because it's always going to be, but it just keeps our code a little bit neater, more efficient. So we put dim, which is short for dimension. That's just how we create a variable in VB, Visual Basic for Applications. So dim CurrentSlide. Notice that I've not put a space in the middle of that variable name there. Variable names can't have spaces in them. There can be multiple words. I've put a capital S just to make it a bit easier to read, but you can write that however you like. So dim CurrentSlide as an integer. That's the only declaration we need, and then we have to create our own subroutine, which is very, very simple. This is, again, I'll give you the code in the description, so don't worry about typing this out, but it's kind of a built-in subroutine. It's a subroutine that Visual Basic for Applications will recognize, and it's a subroutine called OnSlideShowPageChange. This extra bit of brackets is just simply saying whatever slide we change to, just store that number in a variable called SSW, if you like, something like that. So OnSlideShowPageChange. Now this subroutine with that exact name will trigger every time you change slide. So whenever you go from one slide to the next, or you go back, or you even jump to a different slide, whenever you change the slide that you're currently on, this subroutine will trigger. Now we don't want to have slide 1 actually affect the number that's in here, because of course when you run a presentation you might get through to slide 29. That's brilliant, so there's your presentation, it's stored number 29. Next time you run the presentation, of course it's always going to start by showing you slide 1, and because you've now changed the view to slide 1, this number here is going to change to the number 1. So potentially every single time you run the presentation you're going to lose the number that you stored of the slide you got up to last time. So it completely negates the whole point of having that variable stored. So we've got a little if statement here. So we're simply saying here, if not ssw.view.currentShowPosition, so if our current position, if the slide we are currently looking at is equal to the presentation starting slide, so whatever the slide number 1 is, then. So it's saying here if not, so if it is not the case that the current position is the starting slides, if we are not looking at the starting slide, then do these 2 lines of code. And then we just got an end if underneath here, because we always have to end an if block. So this, in other words, means that these 2 lines of code will only happen if the current position is not slide 1, the starting slide. All right. So if you decide that you want to play around with this, a basic understanding of how this code is working will help you to adapt it more easily. So what do we do then? Well, all we're doing whenever we do change from one slide to the next is we're taking the slide number and we're storing it in the notes section of slide 1. That's all we're doing. So that's what this line here does. So it simply says the active presentation, slide 1, look at the notes page section, and that text is going to equal whatever the current slide number is. The slide index is the slide number. So whatever the current slide number is, store that text in the notes page of slide 1. So that line there is what puts that number into the notes section. Now I also said when I was doing this that there would be no need for you to save the presentation, because of course if you are constantly moving around your presentation and the number in the notes section down here is constantly changing, then that number stored in the notes section needs to be saved. Otherwise, if you close your presentation without saving it, then you're not going to save the number position. So the next line of code here says ActivePresentation.Save. So as soon as you go from one slide to the next, you save the number position you're up to in that notes section, and then you save the whole presentation so that that number is stored correctly every time. So if I now run this presentation, let's resume. So it's going to take us straight to slide 29. Let's go back a little way. So let's go back a few slides. There we are, to slide 19. Every single time I went from one slide to the next, like this, it is saving my presentation. So every single time I go from one slide to the next, it's putting the number of the slide I'm up to, in this case 19, into the notes section of slide 1, and then saving the presentation. So if I come out of this presentation and I was to close the presentation and then reopen it, in fact you'll see, oh, you can't in this view here, but there is no option for me to save this now because it has already been saved. But that number 19 in the notes section now will be saved even if I close the presentation and don't bother saving it. So I hope that's useful to you. If you have any questions at all about this, anything that isn't quite working for you, or anything you want to try to adapt or change, then please do leave a comment below. As I say, I'll put all this code in the description below, but I won't put all the instructions on how to do that. So hopefully you can use this video to help you do that. But if you have any questions at all, please do leave a comment below. Any suggestions, recommendations, please do pop them in the comments section, and I will respond as soon as I possibly can. If you liked this video, then please like it. So if you found it useful, please do click the like button. And if you think that it will be helpful for other people, then it would be fantastic if you could share this. If you haven't subscribed already, then please do hit subscribe, and the little bell icon, of course, will make sure that you are informed by YouTube when new videos go live. So thank you very much indeed for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Bye for now.